From the Corner Office, the podcast that pulls back the curtain on everything talent acquisition, human resources, and recruiting. Presented by CornerOffice. Whether you're building teams, leading HR strategy, or hunting top-tier talent, you are in the right place. Please join today's hosts, Alan Ingram and Chatty G, who will share their insights, explore trends, and give you the tools you need to disrupt, transform, and supercharge your talent team. So let's get to work, pull up a chair in the Corner Office, and take a deep dive.
Welcome back to From the Corner Office, everybody. I'm Alan Ingram, and
I'm Chatty G, ready to jump into another deep dive with you.
Today we're taking a look at talent acquisition strategies, and we're basing this deep dive on a blog post by CornerOffice. It's called Why Every Company Needs to Assess Their Talent Acquisition Strategy. You know, finding great people, it's tougher than ever these days.
Absolutely. And this blog post really highlights why, even if you think you've got a perfect hiring process, you've got to check it regularly, Make sure everything's still running smoothly.
It is like a tune-up, right? Like taking your car in for a tune-up. Exactly. You don't wait for the engine to fall out before you get it checked.
So let's get into this, shall we? Why are these talent acquisition assessments so important in the first place? I mean, the blog post argues that the whole hiring landscape is constantly changing. You've got remote work, AI, candidate expectations shifting all the time. It's a whole new ballgame out there. What worked even a year ago might be completely outdated today. And assessments, well, they help you spot those little inefficiencies that can really start to drag you down.
Yeah, the blog gives this example of time to fill metrics, which is how long it takes to fill an open position. Even if you're hitting your hiring targets, if that time to fill starts going up, well, that's a red flag.
Absolutely. It's like a canary in a coal mine. It could mean your process is getting bogged down, maybe your tech is clunky, or the application process is just too long.
So those inefficiencies, they can have some serious consequences if they're left unchecked. What are some of the risks companies face if they get complacent and skip these assessments, do you think?
Well, for one, you could be missing out on great candidates from diverse backgrounds, simply because your strategy isn't keeping up with the times. And then there's the tech side. New tools are coming out all the time that can make hiring more efficient and candidate-friendly. If you're not using them, well, you're falling behind.
Yeah, and think about those nasty Glassdoor reviews. The blog post mentions how those can really hurt you.
Oh, for sure. Bad reviews from frustrated candidates. That can scare off potential applicants before they even apply.
And the blog mentions a pretty scary statistic. Replacing an employee can cost up to 200% of their annual salary.
Oof, that's a big hit. Between training, lost productivity, it's a real financial drain.
So let's say a company realizes they need to assess their talent acquisition strategy. Where do they even begin? I mean, this blog lays out some key areas to focus on, right?
Yeah, it does. And they start with the candidate experience, which makes total sense to me.
Right. Put yourself in the candidate's shoes.
Exactly. It's easy to get so caught up in just filling the position that we forget about the human beings going through the process.
And how do you actually assess that? I mean, candidate experience, it's not like there's a checklist, is there?
Well, there are some concrete things you can look at, like analyze those drop-off rates. During the application process, if people are abandoning it halfway through, that's a big clue something's wrong.
Yeah, makes sense. First impressions are everything, right?
You never get a second chance to make a good one. And this is especially true in a competitive job market. Another thing the blog stresses is actively seeking feedback from your candidates.
Like sending out surveys or giving them a call afterwards.
Yeah, exactly. Don't be afraid to ask them what worked well and what could be improved.
So we've got candidate experience. What else is important?
Well, the blog then goes into your tech stack, making sure you're using the right tools and that they all work together smoothly.
Right. And this is where things can get complicated, right? We've got AI, machine learning, all those buzzwords flying around. How do you evaluate your tech in that kind of environment?
Well, the blog really highlights the importance of your applicant tracking system, or ATS. It's basically the backbone of your recruiting process. Yeah. You need to see how well it integrates with other tools like your CRM, social media platforms, and even job boards.
It's all about integration.
Exactly. No one wants to be stuck manually transferring data between systems. That's just asking for trouble. And of course, we can't talk about hiring without mentioning AI, can we?
The elephant in the room.
Or the robot in the cubicle, maybe. And the blog has some good advice here. They caution against overinvesting, but also underutilizing these technologies. Finding that sweet spot is key.
So how do you do that?
Well, they give some examples of AI being used effectively, things like resume parsing or chatbots. But the main takeaway is you have to evaluate how AI is being used in your process. Is it actually helping you reach your goals? And does it align with that candidate experience we were talking about?
It's about striking a balance. You can
Yeah.
have all the fancy AI in the world, but you can't forget about the human element.
Absolutely. And that brings us to another important area that the blog highlights, your team. Do your recruiters have the skills and the resources they need to succeed?
Right. It's not just about the tech, it's about the people using it.
Exactly. The blog makes a really strong argument for investing in your talent acquisition team's development.
Yeah.
Are they getting the training they need to stay on top of things? Are their roles clearly defined? Are there any bottlenecks in the process?
It's a lot to think about.
Mhm.
And I feel like we're just scratching the surface here. There's so much more to explore when it comes to assessing your talent acquisition strategy.
We've only just begun.
And we'll be diving even deeper into this after a quick break. So stay tuned.
Before we jump into those big trends the blog talks about, I want to go back to something we touched on earlier about investing in your recruiting team. It's not just about keeping them happy. It's a smart move strategically.
Okay, help me understand that.
Well, think of recruiters like ambassadors. They're the face of your company to potential hires.
Right. First impressions and all that.
Exactly. If they're burned out or out of touch or just not excited about the company, that's going to show.
And that's going to make it harder to attract the best people.
Absolutely. But if you invest in them, give them good training, the right tools, foster a culture of learning, it sends a message.
That you care about your employees and you want to create a great place to work.
Exactly. And that can make all the difference when you're competing for talent.
So we've talked about the basics of assessment. Now let's look at some of those big trends, the ones the blog highlights. They really emphasize the need for constant evaluation, don't they?
They do. And they're all connected to the bigger changes happening in the world of work, like the AI revolution, for example.
Yeah, we can't ignore that one.
It's changing everything, how we recruit, how we work, and it's only going to get bigger. We're already seeing AI tools for everything from sourcing candidates to screening resumes, even conducting interviews.
It's pretty amazing. And a little scary too, right?
It is, but it's important to remember that AI is just a tool. And like any tool, it can be used well or badly.
So those assessments become even more important. You need to make sure you're using AI effectively, that it's actually helping you.
Exactly. And don't rely on it too much either. We can't lose that human touch entirely.
It's all about balance.
Right. Now, another trend the blog talks about is candidate-centric hiring. It's a shift from just filling positions to actually building relationships with candidates.
Treating them more like customers in a way.
Yeah, I like that analogy because candidates have more choices than ever before. They're doing their research, comparing companies.
So you have to make a good impression, stand out from the crowd.
Exactly. You need a strong employer brand.
Yeah.
And a hiring process that's smooth and enjoyable.
And this is where assessments come in again, right? Regularly checking your candidate experience, getting feedback, and making changes to meet those expectations.
It's a constant process of improvement.
Okay, so we've got the AI revolution, candidate-centric hiring. What's the third big trend?
The hybrid workforce. The pandemic really sped this up, and it's not going away.
The new normal.
Exactly. And this has huge implications for talent acquisition. You've got to source, interview, and onboard people from all over the place.
It's exciting, but also a little daunting.
It is. It gives you a much wider pool of talent to choose from, but you have to rethink how you do things.
You might need new technology for remote interviews and onboarding. And your communication needs to be top-notch, especially with candidates in different time zones.
Exactly. And once again, assessments can help. By regularly evaluating your processes, you can spot any gaps and make sure you're ready to handle the challenges of a hybrid workforce.
So we've covered a lot of ground here. The importance of assessing your talent acquisition strategy, those key areas to focus on, and the major trends shaping the future of hiring.
And it's clear that this isn't a one-time thing, it's an ongoing process.
If you want to stay competitive and attract top talent, you've got to make assessments part of your strategy.
I couldn't agree more. Now remember, this blog post we've been discussing, it's from CornerOffice. They're a company that specializes in helping companies transform their talent acquisition.
And they've got an impressive track record, too. They've worked with some big names, like Chick-fil-A, the Home Depot, Constellation Energy.
And the results are pretty amazing, like a 91% executive retention rate over 2 years. That's more than double the national average.
Wow. What's their secret?
Well, they combine a deep understanding of the industry with a focus on innovation. And they've got a passionate team that's dedicated to helping companies succeed.
So they're not just talking the talk, they're walking the walk.
Exactly. They've even written a book called From Misfires to Hires, How to Supercharge Your Talent Acquisition Team. It's a great resource for anyone who wants to build a high-performing recruiting team.
And they have a masterclass too, right? Called Recruiting for Retention.
Yep. So if you're feeling a little lost or you just want some expert guidance, CornerOffice is definitely worth checking out.
Great advice. We'll include links to their website, their book, and the masterclass in the show notes.
Perfect. So what can our listeners do today to start putting these ideas into practice? What's one small change they can make right now to make a real difference?
That's the big question, isn't it? What do you suggest?
Well, I think one of the easiest things to do, and one of the most effective, is to just start asking for feedback.
You mean from candidates?
Yeah. Ask them about their experience. What went well? What could be better? You might be surprised by what you hear.
It gives you a different perspective, right?
Exactly. You can see things from the candidate's point of view and identify those areas where you might be losing good people without even realizing it.
Sometimes it's the little things that make a difference, right? Like streamlining your application or sending more personalized emails.
Absolutely. Those small changes can have a big impact on your ability to attract and keep top talent.
And if you need more help, well, CornerOffice offers those personalized assessments we were talking about. They can really help you identify your weak spots and come up with solutions.
Right. So for our listeners who want to learn more, definitely check out their website and their book, From Misfires to Hires. Plus, they have that masterclass, Recruiting for Retention.
We'll make sure to include all those links in the show notes.
Great. Remember, investing in your talent acquisition strategy is an investment in the future of your company.
Couldn't agree more. So as we wrap up this deep dive, let's leave our listeners with one final thought. If you could change one thing about your hiring process today, what would it be? Something that would really improve the candidate experience and help you attract those A players.
That's a tough one, but a good one to think about. It really gets to the heart of what we've been talking about.
It does. And it reminds us that even small changes can make a big difference.
So go out there and make that change. Don't be afraid to experiment. You might be surprised by the results.
Great advice. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into the world of talent acquisition. Remember, this is a journey. Keep learning, keep adapting, and keep striving to be better. Until next time.
Thanks for listening to From the Corner Office. If you found today's conversation valuable, be sure to subscribe, leave us a review, and share with your network. This podcast is brought to you by CornerOffice. With decades of combined experience, our mission is to empower CHROs and talent acquisition leaders with the tools and expertise to assess, disrupt, and innovate their talent acquisition strategies, resulting in higher retention of top talent. Schedule a free consultation by visiting gocorneroffice.com. Let's supercharge your hiring success together.